In the previous lecture, we presented three interesting differences between the biblical and Mesopotamian laws regarding goring oxen. These differences have been explained by scholars in various ways. In the current lecture, we will focus on the interpretation suggested by the biblical scholar Moshe Greenberg. During the 1980s, Greenberg published several influential articles on biblical law. In his studies, Greenberg argues that an essential difference exists between Israelite and Mesopotamian law. While in Mesopotamia, the king is the legislative authority, in the Bible it is God. According to Greenberg, this basic difference has significant implications. In his words,
no Israelite king is said to have authored a law code. The only legislator the Bible knows of is God. The entire normative realm, whether in law or morality, pertains to God alone. The effect of this divine authorship of all law is to make crimes sins, a violation of the will of God. God is directly involved as legislator and sovereign.
In Greenberg's view, the divine source of the biblical law defines the degree of its stringency.
The way is thus prepared to regard offences as absolute wrongs, transcending the power of men to pardon or expunge. This would seem to underlie the refusal of biblical law to admit of pardon or mitigation of punishment in certain cases where cuneiform law allows it.
This definition of the legal philosophy of the Bible may explain why, in the Bible, the owner of the warned ox is essentially sentenced to death. According to Greenberg, this capital punishment reflects the biblical attitude towards taking life as being an absolute wrong. The only suitable punishment is thus the death of the person who took the life of another. Greenberg writes,
in the earliest law collection, the Covenant Code of Exodus, it is laid down that murder is punishable by death, though here the law allows the owner to ransom himself with a sum fixed by the slain person's family. This is the sole degree of culpability in which the early law allows a ransom. A ransom may be accepted only for homicide not committed personally and with intent to harm. For murder, however, there is only the death penalty. These provisions contrast sharply with the other Near Eastern laws on homicide. All Near Eastern law recognizes the right of the slain person's family to agree to accept a settlement in lieu of the death of the slayer. The sense of the invaluableness of human life underlies the divergence of the biblical treatment of the homicide from that of the other law systems of the Near East. There, the law allows, and at times fixes, a value on lives.
Greenberg argues here that the conversion of the death sentence into a ransom payment in the case of the warned ox owner is a one-time exception in biblical law. As a rule, the Bible regards murder as an offense against God. Consequently, it does not recognize the principle of payment for man's life. This is a fundamental divergence between the biblical and Mesopotamian law. The Bible basically requires its owner too shall be put to death, while the Mesopotamian law imposes a fine of 30 shekels on him. The biblical comment that the death sentence can be mitigated to ransom is a very exceptional rule. This exception derives from the fact that the owner himself did not kill the person and that his only fault was criminal negligence. However, when we examine the biblical system as a whole, it basically allows no ransom because it regards killing as an absolute wrong, directed towards God, the source of law. Greenberg's argument may find support in the ideas of another Bible scholar, Jacob Finkelstein. Finkelstein noticed that the Bible defines the ransom in question as the redemption of his life. This means that the ransom redeems him, the owner, from being sentenced to death. it is not a financial compensation for the death of the victim. The Bible thus stresses the basic idea that there is no compensation for loss of human life. Even in the exceptional case of ransom, the ransom is for the life of the owner, not for the life of the victim. As we will see in the next lecture, Greenberg seeks to explain other differences according to the same principle.